May 30th, 1944. A damp, concrete listening post on the coast of the Pas-de-Calais, France. Unteroffizier, Corporal, Karl Schmidt, a 20-year-old signals analyst for the German Funkabwehr, is bored. He has been on duty for 6 hours, his headphones, pressed tightly to his ears, his fingers tracing the dial of a massive Telefunken radio receiver. His job is to listen. To listen to the brar 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 of Allied Morse code, which he will dutifully record for the experts to decrypt. But mostly, he listens to the BBC. He listens to the endless swing music, the lies of the Allied news, and most annoyingly, the personal messages program. His Oberleutnant, lieutenant, a man named Vogel, believes these messages are a child's game. He lets his men listen to them for morale, for a laugh. At 9:15 p.m., the program begins, the crisp British announcer's voice cutting through the static. And now some personal messages for our friends on the continent. Karl gets his notepad ready to write down the jokes. The voice reads, "Jean has a long mustache." Karl chuckles, writing it down. The rabbit's carrots are cooked. The crocodile is thirsty. Marie's dress is green. It's a list of pure, unadulterated, childish nonsense. It is literally a shopping list of gibberish. Oberleutnant Vogel walks by, glancing at the pad. "More poetry from London, Schmidt?" he scoffs. "How do they expect to win a war with this? This kindergarten code?" Schmidt and his colleagues laugh. They are experts. They are the Goliath of German military intelligence. They are the men who hunt, find, and kill Allied radio operators with their high-tech direction-finding vans. They are the men who can break complex ciphers. And they are listening to the British broadcast this shopping list, in the clear, on an open radio channel for the entire world to hear. It is, to them, the ultimate proof of amateurish, English foolishness. What Corporal Schmidt and Lieutenant Vogel cannot possibly know is that this shopping list is not foolish. It is, in fact, the most sophisticated, crazy, and impossible weapon of the entire war. They are not laughing at a kindergarten code. They are laughing at their own death sentence. Because this shopping list of nonsense managed in London by one unassuming, unlikely hero, a woman with no military rank, no combat experience, and no expert credentials, is at this very moment the trigger. It is the go signal for the largest, most secret ghost army in history. And in 1 week, it will fool the entire German High Command, paralyze their panzers, and seal the fate of the Third Reich. Let's rewind to 1943. London. The headquarters of the Special Operations Executive, or SOE. The expert consensus for winning the war is clear, an invasion of France. But the impossible problem is just as clear. D-Day will fail catastrophically if the German Panzer reserves, the Goliath of the Wehrmacht, can reach the Normandy beaches within 48 hours. The Allies must stop them. But how? The expert solution is to create a secret army in France, the Resistance, and call them to action on D-Day. But this creates a new, impossible problem. How do you communicate with a ghost army of $100,000, different, decentralized, atomized cells? How do you tell all of them, the invasion is tomorrow, blow up your bridge, cut your rail line, now? The by-the-book solution is the radio. The SOE, in its F section for France, has been training and parachuting radio operators into France for 2 years. These agents, men and women, carry a 30-pound suitcase-sized radio, a B2, and a list of secret one-time pad codes. They are the expert solution, and they are all dying. The other Goliath is the German Funkabwehr and the Gestapo, and they are brilliant. They have radio direction finding, RDF vans, detector cars that prowl the streets of Paris and Lyon. They are hunters, and they know with expert certainty that any SOE agent who transmits for more than 15 minutes is a dead man. The triangulation is that fast. The average life expectancy of an SOE radio operator in France in 1943 is 6 weeks. The expert system is a death sentence. The Prosper network, the SOE's largest circuit in northern France, has just been rolled up and destroyed by the Gestapo. Hundreds of agents are arrested, tortured, and executed. The by-the-book solution is failing. The SOE is bleeding out, its best and bravest. and they still have no way to safely signal the resistance for D-Day. They need a new, crazy idea. Enter the unlikely hero. Her name is Vera Atkins, and she is the last person the expert military system would ever trust. She is not a soldier. She is not a by-the-book officer. She is a woman. She is Romanian-born. She is Jewish. She is not even in 1943 an official British citizen. She is traveling on a stateless passport. She is, in the rigid, old boys club of British intelligence, the world of MI6 and the War Office, a complete outsider. She is by rank a civilian, a secretary. But in F section, the scrappy, ungentlemanly SOE, which MI6 calls the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, Vera Atkins is the spy mistress. Her official title is intelligence officer. Her real job is to be the mother hen, the den mother, the quartermaster of the 400 agents, including the 37 women she will personally select, train, and deploy into the lion's den of occupied France. This is the boardroom conflict. The expert system of MI6 and the by-the-book generals despise the SOE. They call them amateurs, circus clowns, cutthroats. They believe in secure communications, in enigma, in coded cables. They believe that the only way to send a signal is with a B2 radio and a one-time pad. And Vera Atkins and her boss, Maurice Buckmaster, are watching this expert system kill their agents. Vera's job is to equip her agents for their suicidal missions, and she is obsessed with detail. She checks every item. The French-made clothes, no British labels. The French-made cigarettes, not players. The French-made money, and the code. How to communicate without the radio. And this is where the crazy idea is born. The Eureka moment, the BBC. The British Broadcasting Corporation is already broadcasting its personal messages service. It's a real, by-the-book program designed to send open-air messages to civilians in occupied Europe. To Papa, we are all safe. We miss you. It's a plausible deniability machine. The crazy idea is, what if they hid their go signals inside this shopping list of nonsense? What if instead of one agent transmitting a suicidal 15-minute Morse code message, the entire resistance was just listening to the radio? This is the forbidden tactic. It is, by all expert definitions, insecure. It's being broadcast in the clear. The Germans can hear it. The by-the-book generals are horrified. You're going to tell the Germans we're coming? You're going to give them the signal? And the answer from SOE is, yes, that's why it works. This is the genius of Vera Atkins's shopping list code. First, it's 100% untraceable. The Funkabwehr and their Goliath RDF vans are useless. You cannot triangulate the BBC. It's a 150,000-watt signal coming from London, blanketing all of Europe. Second, it's a needle in a haystack. The expert German analysts like Oberleutnant Vogel hear the messages. But which one is the real one? Jean has a long mustache. The rabbit's carrots are cooked. Marie's dress is green. The answer is, they all are. Each silly phrase is a prearranged go signal for a different resistance circuit. One group's go signal is to cut a rail line. Another's is to blow a bridge. Third, it paralyzes the experts. The Germans are drowned in signal noise. They are listening to 200 triggers, but they don't know which trigger is for which target. By broadcasting all the shopping list items, the Allies are, in effect, activating everyone, everywhere, all at once, creating a crazy wave of impossible chaos. And fourth, the Germans laugh at it. It's kindergarten. It's foolish. It's child's play. And the expert German mind, so focused on its Goliath technology, cannot believe that the Allies would stake the entire invasion of Europe on a line of poetry. This is the gamble. Vera Atkins, the unlikely hero, has to believe in this crazy system. She has to personally brief her agents, her girls, before they parachute into the dark. When you get to France, she tells them, don't trust the radio. Trust the radio. Trust the BBC. Listen every night, and when you hear your phrase, that is the signal. That is when you light the fuse. The shopping list is now the expert system in disguise, and the German high command, so busy laughing, has no idea that the silly woman in London has just handed a suicidal trigger to 100,000 ghosts. The crazy idea was born. But in the expert, by-the-book world of the British War Office, an idea from a circus like the SOE and from a civilian woman like Vera Atkins was worse than useless. It was dangerous. This was the boardroom conflict. It wasn't a single meeting. It was a constant grinding war of culture. The Goliath was not just the Gestapo. It was the British Old Boys Club, the expert generals and spy masters of MI6, who believed in rules. "You cannot be serious," one by-the-book colonel from Signals Command reportedly told Vera's boss, Maurice Buckmaster. "You are proposing to broadcast the go signal for the entire invasion." "In the clear?" On the BBC. "You're not just telling the Germans, you're inviting them to listen. It's amateur. It's insecure. It's child's play." And Vera Atkins, the unlikely hero, the Romanian-born secretary with the stateless passport, would just look at him with her famously cold, analytical eyes. "That's precisely why it will work, Colonel," she would reply, her voice quiet. "You are thinking like an expert. You're looking for a complex cipher. The German experts are too, but they are not looking for poetry." Vera's art was not spycraft in the traditional sense. It was organization. It was detail. She was not a spy mistress. She was an impresario of a vast secret orchestra. And this shopping list code was her masterpiece of logistics. This was the test. Not a single battle, but the creation of the impossible system itself. First, there was the casting. Vera's job was to personally interview, select, and equip every agent. She was their den mother. She had an inhuman memory, as one agent called it. She memorized their faces, their code names, their fears. She was the last person they saw before they took off, and she was the one who inspected their costumes. She would pat them down, not for weapons, but for Britishness. "No, my dear," she'd say, pulling a box of English matches from an agent's pocket. "You will be shot for these. Use these." And she'd hand him a box of cheap French-made allumettes. Second, there was the script. This is where the crazy idea became expert doctrine. How was the shopping list written? It was a collaboration. When an agent, let's call him Antoine, was ready to fly, Vera would sit with him. "Antoine," she'd say, "we need your alert phrase. It must be something personal, something you will never forget. But it must also be nonsense, Antoine," a baker from Lyons would think. "My wife, she always says, 'The crocodile is thirsty.'" Vera would write it down in her massive secret ledger. "Excellent. 'The crocodile is thirsty.' That is now your phrase." And in her ledger, next to that silly phrase, she would write circuit, crocodile, target, rail line, Chartres, action, plan Vert. The shopping list was now a loaded gun. Each line of poetry was married to a specific resistance cell and a specific, impossible target. Jean has a long mustache was now aimed at a telephone exchange in Rouen. Marie's dress is green was aimed at a power pylon outside Paris. Vera's ledger was now, quite literally, the most dangerous shopping list in the world. But the true crazy genius of the system, the part that paralyzed the expert German mind, was the double trigger. This was the forbidden tactic that broke the expert rules of radio. The by-the-book generals were terrified. "If we broadcast the signal, the Germans will hear it and know the invasion is coming. They will mobilize the Panzers." "No, they won't," Vera insisted, "because they will have been hearing it for weeks." This was the test. It wasn't one signal. It was two. Sona one, the alert. This was the phrase itself, "The crocodile is thirsty." Starting on the 1st of every month, the BBC would broadcast all the alert phrases, hundreds of them. This was the brilliant part. The German expert analysts like Oberleutnant Vogel were listening. They were writing them down, but they were drowning in noise. What did it mean? Was it the crocodile or the rabbit or Jean's mustache? It was a haystack of needles. It was amateur, English foolishness. Signal 2, the action. This was the repetition. The alert phrase, "The crocodile is thirsty," meant get ready. The invasion is coming soon, within the next 15 days. The action signal was the same phrase, repeated in the same broadcast. "The crocodile is thirsty." I repeat, the crocodile is thirsty. This crazy simplicity was the key. This meant, go, now. The invasion is tonight or tomorrow. Light the fuse. Now the catalyst. The test had to be proven in the field. The by-the-book generals needed proof that this poetry could actually blow something up. The SOE got its chance. It was not a grand operation. It was a test. A by-the-book British colonel needed a real German supply train, running from Orleans to Paris, stopped. It was a low-priority train, but it was annoying. He wanted to send an expert, by-the-book Morse code signal to the local resistance. "No, Colonel," Vera's boss, Buckmaster, said, at her insistence. "Let us try. Let us test the shopping list." The colonel, furious, scoffed. "You want to stop my train? With a poem? Fine, but if it fails, this circus of yours is finished." The gamble was on. The resistance circuit in that sector, Antoine's circuit, was crocodile. Vera's team got the alert phrase, "The crocodile is thirsty," into the BBC's 9:15 p.m. broadcast. In France, Antoine, the baker, was in a damp cellar, his ear pressed to a crackling radio. He heard it. "The crocodile is thirsty," he smiled. He told his Maquis team, "It's the alert. Get the explosives. Clean the guns. Now we wait." In the German listening post, Oberleutnant Vogel heard it. "Ah, the zoo is back, Schmidt," he laughed. "Write it down. The crocodile is thirsty. Unsinn. Nonsense." He logged it. He did nothing. It was noise. For 3 nights, Antoine listened. The Germans listened. The colonel in London fumed. Nothing. He yelled at Buckmaster. "Your poem is a failure." "Patience, Colonel," Buckmaster said. On the 4th night, the BBC announcer's voice was the same. The music was the same. And then... And now the personal messages. "Jean has a long mustache. The rabbit's carrots are cooked. The crocodile is thirsty. I repeat, the crocodile is thirsty." In the German listening post, Schmidt wrote it down. "A repeat, Herr Oberleutnant." Vogel shrugged. "Maybe they forgot they sent it. The English are drunk. Log it." He did nothing. The expert had been paralyzed by the noise. But in the cellar in France, Antoine stopped breathing. He grabbed his team. "That's it. C'est l'heure. It's time, allez. Go, go, go." The test was now live. Antoine's team, 12 men with 40 pounds of plastic explosive, moved through the darkness. They didn't have to wait for a suicidal radio operator to maybe receive a signal. They were already armed, already briefed, and already at the target. They planted their charges. They lit the fuse. Boom! The explosion lit up the night sky. The German supply train, traveling at 40 miles an hour, hit the shattered section of track and derailed in a catastrophic, screeching 20-car pileup. This was the "it works" moment. The catalyst. The next morning, the by-the-book colonel in London got the aerial reconnaissance photo. The train was destroyed. The track was gone. He called Buckmaster. He was silent for a long time. "How?" he finally said. "Poetry, Colonel," Buckmaster replied. The boardroom conflict was over. The system was convinced. The crazy idea was now the only idea. The unlikely hero, Vera Atkins, was no longer a secretary. She was, in secret, the most powerful woman in the war. The expert generals at Chef, the planners for General Eisenhower, finally gave the SOE the impossible task. They greenlit the shopping list as the primary, official trigger for all 100,000 members of the French resistance on D-Day. Vera's shopping list was about to become the expert doctrine. Her ledger of silly phrases was now the loaded gun, pointed at the head of the entire German army in France. The Plan Vert, green plan for the railways, the Plan Bleu, blue plan for the power stations, the Plan Violet, purple plan for the telephone exchanges. All of them were now married to a line of poetry, all of them waiting in Vera's book for one signal. The stage was now set for the grand performance. The test was over. The climax was about to begin. The expert Germans, so proud of their Goliath technology, were still laughing at the silly messages. And in London, Vera Atkins was sharpening her pencil, preparing to broadcast the longest, most important shopping list in human history. May 1st, 1944. A soundproof studio at Bush House, London, the home of the BBC's overseas service. Inside, a by-the-book BBC producer named Hugh Carlton Green is in a boardroom conflict with a man from the War Office he has never seen before, a man who will not give his name, but who speaks with the quiet, chilling authority of the SOE. The man, one of Vera Atkins's colleagues, has just handed Green a piece of paper. It is a shopping list. This is madness, Green says, his voice shaking. You're handing me a list of 400 personal messages. 400! The doctor's horse is sick. It is hot in the Suez. Grandmother is combing her hair. You want the BBC, to broadcast 400 lines of this gibberish? Starting tonight, Mr. Green, the SOE man says, his voice flat. And every night. Until further notice, but why? Green stammers. It will destroy the credibility of the personal messages service. Our listeners, the real people, they will think we have gone insane. It's child's play. Precisely, the SOE man replies. The expert Germans, Mr. Green, they too are listening. They too will think we have gone insane, and that is the entire point. You are not a producer anymore. You are a signals officer. This shopping list is now the most important artillery barrage of the war. This was it. The expert system of the BBC, with its by-the-book rules of broadcasting, had just been hijacked by the crazy system of the SOE. The Goliath of German intelligence was about to be drowned, not in static, but in poetry. This was the grand performance. This was Vera Atkins's impossible plan in action. The test with the train had been a success. Now the climax was beginning. For the next 30 nights for the entire month of May, the BBC dutifully, confusedly broadcast this insane list. Night after night. Jean has a long mustache. The crocodile is thirsty. Marie's dress is green. And in the German listening posts, like the one at Pas de Calais, the expert analysts. Oberleutnant Vogel and Corporal Schmidt were drowning. Their by-the-book training had taught them to look for patterns, for meaning. But this was chaos. This was a deluge of nonsense. What does it mean, Herr Oberleutnant? Schmidt asked, his logbook for May filled with 500 silly phrases. Vogel, the expert, was now a victim of his own expertise. He had a Goliath mind, and he was being beaten by a kindergarten tactic. He had two theories. Theory 1, the English are mad. They are, as he suspected, amateurs and fools, and this is all literally just nonsense to boost their morale. This was the lazy theory. Theory 2, or it is a code so vast, so impossible, that every single phrase is a trigger for a different ghost. This was the terrifying theory. He had to assume Theory 2. He and his analysts went to work. They cross-referenced. They made charts. They tried to find a pattern. Mustache? Maybe that means sabotage. Crocodile? Maybe that means railways. Green dress? Power lines? They were paralyzed. They were, as Vera Atkins had predicted, drowning in the noise. The shopping list had broken the expert German mind. It had done its job too well. The Germans were now convinced that the shopping list was the key, but they had 500 keys and 0 locks. And then, June 1st, 1944. The shopping list broadcast was the same. Jean has a long mustache. The crocodile is thirsty. But on this night, the impossible happened. At the end of the normal 20-minute 400-phrase broadcast, the announcer's voice changed. He paused, and then he said, "And now a special message. The dice are on the table." I repeat, the dice are on the table. In Oberleutnant Vogel's bunker, the room went cold. This was different. This was not nonsense. This was clear. This was a signal. "My God," Vogel whispered. "This is it. This is the master key. The invasion is coming. Now." He telegraphed his report to the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, OKW, in Berlin. BBC broadcast master signal. Invasion is imminent. Within 15 days, he was right. The dice are on the table was the expert-to-expert signal, the message to the leaders of the ghost army of the resistance, the generals of the Maquis. It meant, D-Day is coming within the next 2 weeks. This is the alert. Mobilize all ghosts. But what Vogel missed, what the expert could not see, was what happened next. On June 2nd, Jean has a long mustache. I repeat, Jean has a long mustache. On June 3rd, Marie's dress is green. I repeat, Marie's dress is green. The Goliath was focused on the master key. But Vera Atkins's unlikely heroes, the real ghosts, the Antoine demolition teams, were not. They were listening for their silly phrase. And now Vera was crying wolf. She was deliberately sending action signals, the double messages before the invasion. Why? Because she knew the experts were listening. In France, the Jean team blew up a low-priority telephone exchange. The Marie team blew up a low-priority power pylon. And in the German bunker, Vogel was furious. "It is a code," he yelled. "But it's random. It's chaos. The mustache is the telephone. The dress is the power line. But they are just harassment raids. This is not the invasion. It's the English. They are playing games." Vera Atkins, the unlikely hero in London, had trained the expert German. She had taught him that the shopping list was a code, and she had also taught him that it was unreliable, that it was just noise and harassment. She had set the impossible trap. Now, the climax. June 5th, 1944, 9:15 p.m. D-Day is tomorrow. The impossible gamble is on. The 5,000 ships of the Allied fleet are already in the English Channel, sailing into a storm. And in the BBC studio, the announcer, Hugh Carlton Green, is handed the final shopping list. This is it. Vera's grand performance. In the German listening post at Calais, Oberleutnant Vogel is on duty. He is tired. He is bored. He has been listening to this madness for 5 nights. He knows the invasion is imminent, but not tonight. The weather is terrible. A Force 5 gale is blowing. No one, not even the mad English, would invade in this. He is relaxed. The broadcast begins. "Good evening. Here are the personal messages." Vogel and Corporal Schmidt listen. "Jean has a long mustache. The crocodile is thirsty. Marie's dress is green. It is the same list as last night. And the night before. Unsin. Nonsense, and then it happens. The silly phrases stop. And a new set of phrases begins. Hundreds of them, all at once. It is hot in the Suez. I repeat. It is hot in the Suez. The rabbit's carrots are cooked. I repeat. The rabbit's carrots are cooked. Grandmother is combing her hair. I repeat. Grandmother is combing her hair. In the bunker, Corporal Schmidt stops writing. He rips his headphones off. "Herr Oberleutnant!" He screams, his voice cracking. "Listen, listen. They are all repeating. All of them. It's not one. It's hundreds." Vogel grabs the spare headphones. He listens. His expert mind, the mind that had been so bored, snaps. The noise, the harassment, the kindergarten code. It was all a double trigger, and all the triggers, all 400, were just pulled. At the same time, this was not a harassment raid. This was not a test. This was it. This was the deluge. This was the signal. "My God," Vogel whispers. It's tonight. He is not alone. All across France, in every German Funkabwehr listening post, the same expert analysts are all, at the same 9:15 p.m., having the same heart-stopping realization. They all hear it. The shopping list is the trigger. The Goliath is awake. But this is where Vera's crazy tactic delivers its master stroke. Vogel grabs the flash telegraph. He has to warn the 15th Army. He has to warn Berlin. "Invasion is tonight," he types, but where? The shopping list. It doesn't say. Jean has a long mustache means blow up a phone line. But which phone line? The one at Calais or the one at Normandy? The Germans do not know. The expert system is blind. The shopping list has activated all 100,000 ghosts all over France. And at 9:30 p.m. the ghosts go to work. In Calais, a mustache team blows up a telephone exchange. In Normandy, a crocodile team blows up a rail line. In Brittany, a green dress team blows up a power pylon. At 10 p.m., the German High Command is in total chaos. The expert generals are staring at a map that is on fire. It's everywhere. The entire country of France is erupting in chaos, harassment, and sabotage. This is the impossible genius of the shopping list. It warned the Germans, and in doing so, it paralyzed them. They were so overwhelmed by so much ghost activity, they could not see the real target. The Goliath was now deaf, dumb, and blind. And in London, Vera Atkins, the unlikely hero, the secretary with the stateless passport, just put down her pencil. Her shopping list had just given the 5,000 real ships, the 150,000 real men, the 12 hours of chaos they needed. The kindergarten code was about to win the war. The broadcast was over. In the London studio, the BBC announcer, Hugh Carlton Green, read the final line of poetry, signed off, and the 9:15 p.m. personal messages program ended. For him, the insane job was done. He went for a cup of tea. But across France, the crazy tactic was now a physical reality. The shopping list had been read. The triggers had been pulled. And for the 100,000 ghosts of the French resistance, the grand performance had begun. This was the punchline. The expert German high command, the Goliath of Wehrmacht intelligence, was now, at the single most critical moment in the war, completely, totally, and hopelessly paralyzed. Let's look at the expert German response. In the bunker at Calais, Oberleutnant Vogel and Corporal Schmidt were frantically cross-referencing their logs. "They are all repeating," Schmidt yelled. "The mustache, the crocodile, the rabbit. All of them!" Vogel, the expert analyst, was now a victim of Vera's crazy genius. He saw too much information. He had proof of sabotage in his sector, Calais, and his counterparts in Normandy had proof of sabotage in their sector, and in Brittany, and in Lyons. The shopping list had created a fog of war inside their own expert listening posts. The impossible problem for the Germans was this: the shopping list worked. It told them the invasion was happening, but it did not tell them where. Vogel's commander did what any by-the-book general would do. He flashed a report to his superior, General Hans von Salmuth, commander of the 15th Army at the Pas de Calais. "Massive coordinated sabotage wave has begun. All personal message codes have been activated. This confirms imminent invasion. We are on high alert." And this is the impossible, crazy punchline. Every German general, up and down the entire 500-mile coast, sent the exact same message. The Germans were, in effect, paralyzed by their own expertise. They knew the invasion was happening, everywhere at once, and now, the Ghost Army, triggered by the shopping list, delivered its impossible killing blow. This wasn't just noise. This was physical destruction on a crazy, impossible scale. First, the Plan Violet, the telephone plan. At 10:00 p.m., ghost teams activated by shopping list phrases like "the doctor's horse is sick" emerged from their cellars. Their targets, 16 main underground, expertly buried telephone cables. These cables were the nervous system of the German high command. By 3 a.m., all 16 were cut. Feldmarschall von Rundstedt, the supreme commander in the West, woke up on June 6th to find he could not telephone Feldmarschall Rommel in Normandy. He could not call the 15th Army in Calais. The German Goliath was deaf and dumb. Second, the Plan Vert, the railway plan. This was the real Goliath killer. Ghost teams activated by phrases like "the crocodile is thirsty" swarmed the French National Railway. In the 48 hours after the shopping list broadcast, the French resistance performed 950 separate acts of railway sabotage. They didn't just blow up a train. They derailed engines inside tunnels. They blew up railway switching yards. They dismantled 30 miles of track. This was the physical validation of Vera's crazy tactic. Because when the expert Germans finally realized the real landings were at Normandy, and Hitler finally, 12 hours too late, released the Goliath Panzer reserves, they couldn't move. The 21st Panzer Division, the 12th SS Hitlerjugend Panzer Division. Their expert plan was to race to the beaches on trains. And the trains weren't running. The shopping list had just in effect defueled and derailed the entire German panzer force. This forced the Goliaths onto the roads, and that is where they were annihilated by the other expert Allied weapon, the P-47 Thunderbolt. Vera's shopping list had forced the Goliath panzers out of their safe rail system and into an ambush from the sky. And what of the Goliath's expert mind? Feldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt, one of the old guard German generals, was in his HQ. He knew the Normandy landings were happening, but he also knew that his 15th Army at Calais, the most powerful army in France, was also reporting massive sabotage. He still believed Normandy was a diversion. He refused to send the 15th Army. He held them at Calais for 7 crucial weeks. Why? Because the shopping list hadn't stopped, and because the other Ghost Army, the Rubber Duck Army of Operation Fortitude, was still in Kent, sending fake radio traffic. The expert Germans had been fooled not by one crazy idea but by two, a pincer movement of ghosts and poetry. This was the validation. The Goliath had been fooled. The impossible problem was solved, and in London the unlikely hero was validated. Vera Atkins was in her office at Baker Street. She was not a spy mistress celebrating a victory. She was an accountant of human life. Her crazy tactic, her shopping list, had worked. It had saved thousands of Allied lives on the beaches. But now, she was paying the artist's price. She was receiving the real reports. Her ledger, her shopping list of poetry, was now a hit list. Circuit, crocodile, action, plan Vert, target, rail line, Chartres. Successful. And then the punchline she had dreaded. Agent Antoine. Status: silent. Captured by Gestapo June 7th. Vera's ghosts had been suicidal. The shopping list was a one-way signal for many of them. When they blew the bridge, when they cut the cable, they knew the Gestapo would be there in hours. They knew they were sacrificing their lives. To save the armies, Vera Atkins's impossible gamble had been validated, but her crazy idea had cost her everything. She was now the den mother to a family of 118 missing agents. Her shopping list had worked. And now, her ledger was a book of the dead. The expert generals, the by-the-book system that had laughed at her, now depended on her, but they would never admit it. The Goliath of the Wehrmacht had been brought down by a David of amateurs, and the Goliath of the British War Office was now going to bury the story. The expert consensus was clear. This crazy idea, this kindergarten code, this woman's war, was too powerful, too ungentlemanly, and too embarrassing to the by-the-book experts. It had to be hidden. The unlikely hero had been too successful, and now the system she had saved was about to make her a ghost herself. The war in Europe ended on May 8, 1945. For the expert generals and the by-the-book victors, it was a day of parades, champagne, and triumphant speeches. But in the quiet, dusty offices of the Special Operations Executive at Baker Street, there was no celebration. The unlikely hero of our story, Vera Atkins, the spy mistress of the shopping list, had her impossible mission. Her crazy tactic had worked. Her poetry had saved thousands of lives on D-Day and paralyzed the Goliath of the Wehrmacht. But her ledger, the shopping list of triggers, was now a book of the dead. 118 of her agents, her family, her boys and girls, were missing. The expert system, the by-the-book War Office, was already moving on. They were closing the books, shutting down the amateur SOE and classifying its ungentlemanly records. They told Vera, "Leave it. They're gone. The war is over." This was the expert consensus. But Vera Atkins, the unlikely hero who had never once listened to the expert consensus, had one last crazy idea. She would find them. For the humble hero, there was no quiet life. There was no returning to a normal job. Her legacy was not just the tactic, but the people. For the next 2 years, Vera Atkins, with no official rank, no official salary, and no passport, she was still stateless, launched a one-woman impossible mission. She used her own money and her inhuman memory, the same memory that held the shopping list, to hunt for her 118 missing ghosts. She traveled alone through the ruins of Germany, a secretary with an iron will, walking into the recently liberated, nightmarish hells of Dachau, Ravensbrück and Natzweiler Struthof. She was not a general, she was an accountant. She was the spy mistress balancing her ledger of human life. She sat across from captured Gestapo experts, the Goliaths who had hunted her agents, men like SS Sturmbannführer Josef Kiefer, the head of the Gestapo in Paris. And in this full-circle moment, the expert was baffled. He still didn't understand. We found your agents," he told her, confused. "We broke your expert radio codes. We found your operators, but we could never stop the sabotage. The signals, they kept coming. How?" Vera, her face a cold, perfect mask, just stared at him. She never told him. She never gave him the punchline. She never mentioned the shopping list. She just said, "Tell me what you did to Antoine." And one by one, she got her answers. She confirmed 117 of her 118 missing agents. She found their execution dates, their last words. She brought closure. She, the unlikely hero, was the only one in the expert system who cared enough to do it. And what of the system she had saved? The boardroom conflict returned. The Goliath of the British Old Boys Club fought back. In 1947, when the SOE was officially and quietly disbanded, its ungentlemanly work was swept under the rug. Vera Atkins, the woman who had arguably done more to ensure the success of D-Day than many generals, was denied her official rank. She was denied her British citizenship. She was denied her pension. She was officially punished for being an amateur, a woman, and a Romanian-born Jew. The expert system could not accept that it had been saved by an unlikely hero. It was too crazy. It was too embarrassing. The shopping list code, the poetry that had won the war, was classified top secret. It was buried, just like the Ghost Army in America, for over 50 years. The heroes were silenced. The experts wrote the histories. And in those expert histories, D-Day was won by brute force. The resistance was a plucky sideshow. Vera Atkins's name was not mentioned at all. She finally received her British citizenship in 1947. She was awarded a post-dated commission as a squadron officer in the Women's Royal Air Force, WAF, and the Croix de Guerre from France. But she never received her pension. She never received her true credit. She, the spy mistress, lived a quiet, modest life in Cornwall, a humble hero by force. She died in 2000 at the age of 92. Her shopping list, her crazy tactic, still just a ghost in the official expert histories of the war. The moral of the story is the Goliath's nightmare. The expert is often the easiest man to fool. The German High Command, the expert system, was looking for a Goliath solution. They were hunting for expert radio operators. They were listening for expert ciphers. They were incapable of seeing the crazy solution, the kindergarten code, the child's play. They were beaten not by a better machine, but by a better idea. Vera Atkins's crazy tactic was that noise is a weapon. That paralysis is just as powerful as an explosion. She didn't hide the signal from the Goliath. She drowned him in 10,000 fake signals. She used his own expertise against him. He was too smart to see the simple trick. And today her legacy, her crazy idea, is the expert doctrine. The shopping list code, the poetry of the BBC, is the direct ancestor of 21st century information operations, I.O. The expert generals of today call it asymmetrical warfare. They call it signal-to-noise ratio, manipulation. They call it plausible deniability. When a modern ghost army of internet bots floods a Goliath's expert intelligence system with 10,000 fake reports, that is Vera Atkins's shopping list. When a crazy, amateur organization uses an open, insecure channel, like Telegram or Twitter, to activate 10,000 ghosts in a flash mob of chaos. That is, the crocodile is thirsty. Vera Atkins, the unlikely hero, the secretary who was laughed at by the expert generals, had invented the software for modern warfare. She had proven that the most impossible Goliath can be brought down, not by a superweapon, not by a by-the-book plan, but by one crazy idea, one meticulous ledger, and one unlikely hero who has the audacity to believe that a shopping list can change the world.